Well, we all know that a majority of Canadians agree that immigration in Canada is far too high. We also know that immigrants in Canada want to see a limit on the number of immigrants that the Trudeau government is taking in, something they are clearly not doing at all right now. Immigration is the biggest issue facing our country right now. It should be the leading issue heading into the next federal election. And quite frankly, all of the other issues in our country are caused almost entirely by out-of-control open borders mass immigration in Canada. But the question is, what are you going to do about this? Sure, immigration is discussed online, but our entire political class, except for one political party, the People's Party of Canada, led by Maxime Bernier, refuse to talk about immigration. They seem afraid to talk about immigration. Now, I believe that one of the reasons why no one is talking about this is that we as Canadians have been sold out. Our interests, the interests of our children, and those of our future generations have been sold out by our politicians and our media for profit and for political victory. So I ask again, what are you going to do about this? Well, our next guest is someone who has said enough is enough, and he has decided to lead nationwide protests on Canada Day against mass immigration in this country and against our leadership who have brought this upon us. Well, joining us now on the Faulkner Show is the leader of Take Back Canada, Ethan Duggan. Take Back Canada is a group that he started to provide a voice for the majority in this country who want to see immigration controlled. Ethan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just jump right into this protest, because I think a lot of Canadians have been waiting for something like this. A lot of Canadians want to speak. They want to have their voices heard and an opportunity to stand shoulder to shoulder with their fellow Canadians to address this issue. Take us through Canada Day, what you have in mind and what you would like to see.
So I think you really hit on something important. I think Canadians are really looking for something, and I was looking for some kind of movement. You know, I think it's people are really kind of starting to realize that the direction this country is heading in is just catastrophic. People are starting to just wake up to the reality of the policies that are in place, and the fact that we really don't, you know, young people like myself and people around my age don't feel like we have much of a future, at least here in Canada. I personally don't know very many people that, at least that I went to school with and such, that aren't planning on leaving Canada, and I think that's tragic. And so yeah, I felt much the same way. I was looking for some kind of outlet, something to join, to take action, and there just didn't seem to be much out there. So as the day started going by and I couldn't find anything, I started to think like, well, someone's got to do something. So yeah, here we are. In terms of what we're looking for on the protests, like, it's really, we're trying to keep this very open to people of all different political stripes. We're trying to very much be concentrated on the message of Canadians did not consent to this corporate fueled mass immigration that we're currently having. It's not benefiting Canadians. It's very clearly profit driven by a pretty select group of people in our country, and our government's just not listening to us. People want an election right now because people are just so incredibly dissatisfied with their government. In a democracy, when it gets to this point, there is a precedent that you're supposed to call an election. And in general, our democracy is just not working. Like, there's been so many polls on people's opinion on the matter, and the exact numbers range, but it's pretty consistently, from what I've seen, between 50 and 70% of Canadians think we have too much immigration. And yet we have, our politicians saying things like, the cost of the temporary immigrants is already baked in, so let's make them permanent, which is just, I can't, it's almost unimaginable that someone in a position of power in our country could think we're that stupid and say to us, 2 + 2 actually equals 3. It's like it's unbelievable, just the state of our democracy. And I believe that the government that's in power has totally lost consent of the population to rule us in the beginning, or to begin with, I should say. And that's what the protest is about, is to make it known that Canadians aren't going to be passive and just take this lying down like they typically have. We're not going to just sit around anymore while our future is completely sold out from under us. It's time for our political class to actually listen to us, understand that we're getting to the point where we're ready to take action. And so, I don't think Canada has ever taken that step. Obviously, we've had protests before, and it's been kind of more, specialized, I shouldn't say specialized. It's been very specific political groups of people that have organized, but I don't think in a very long time we've had mass protests that represent the will of the majority of Canadians. So I think that needs to change, and it is my hope that when the people in power see that there's growing unrest, they'll maybe get a little scared and actually be responsive to the will of the people.
You've touched on an important part, which is, of course, that the majority are with you, and the majority stand on the side of wanting to see immigration numbers lower in this country. They want to have a controlled immigration system. They don't want to have just basically what we have right now, which is essentially open borders. Why is it, you think, that this is being driven primarily by young people? And also on top of that, why is it that politicians, even those that claim to be conservative and those that, we know that the numbers on the conservative side of those who want to see a decrease in immigration are very high, but yet we don't have political representation on this issue at a serious level. Of course, we have the PPC, but at an establishment level of the Conservative Party, it seems to be a non-issue, whereas in other countries in the world, it is a mainstream issue. Let's just start with the political side of this. Why do you think that the conservative establishment in Canada seem to have no interest in tackling this issue?
Well, I'll start with your first question, which is, why this is so driven by young people. I think the answer is very clear. It's young people that are losing out. Older people, they have their investments. They want their real estate investments to do very well. So, and most of them have, moved away into the country where they're not seeing, like, young people are in the cities because they need jobs, and that's where the jobs are. And so it's right in our faces. And it's also our futures that are just being, given away, more or less just destroyed, all so that, a select number of massive corporations can have really cheap labor, and people who own investment properties can, see their investments grow massively. And also, of course, there's the corporate investors, like corporations that purchase real estate. And I think that's why it's young people. It's because we're the ones that have something at stake here, and we're also the ones that are living in the places where it's right in our faces. I think that's the reason for that. In terms of the political representation, I mean, it's no secret, like, it's become such a taboo in our society and our culture and Western culture in general to talk about immigration. The term racism, the term xenophobia gets thrown around with this, and we're really at a state where, it feels to a lot of people like it's not safe to just have a healthy discussion about the policies that affect all of our lives and affect our country. And I think that to some extent the Conservative Party is sensitive to that. I've seen some people theorize that they're so ahead in the polls, why touch immigration? But we've also seen videos of Pierre Poilievre speaking like he's basically not going to do anything about the immigration issue. In fact, he's going to help people bring over family members and help people get their PRs and stuff. I think that's horribly concerning. And I think that the Conservatives, if they think that they can, operate that way when they get in power and have those policies, and that people will kind of, just vote for them and give them a chance and be content that maybe they'll do something while they continue to not do anything, Just look at the Tories in the UK. Now they might be looking to the Tories in the UK and thinking, oh, they had 14 years just making fools out of their voters. So we can ride that. That's about as long as any Canadian government can hope to have in the first place. But I think that Canadians see that example. People are becoming a lot more politically aware of what's going on in the world around them, and I don't think we're going to be tricked for this in the same way. Definitely nowhere near as long if they do that. So I think that they should, at this point, it's so sad. So many Canadians are hoping that the people they're voting for are being dishonest. We hope that they're ignoring this issue and even, saying they'll do things that will worsen it to get in power. And I think that's a horribly sad state of affairs that we have to hope our politicians are being dishonest. I think they should grow up and they should be honest and not be afraid. I think that honesty is the best policy. Do and say what you think is right.
Yeah, and don't be afraid, right? Like, why would we want to have a leader who is afraid of being called racist or xenophobic by people that hate him anyway, right? It's the media and the liberals and his opposition that are going to attack him that way. But who cares? They're the opposition. They are going to attack you, but this is the issue of the moment. So I completely agree with you, Ethan. Why are leaders there? I don't want to vote for someone who's afraid of being called names by his own political opposition. I want to vote for someone who has some courage. Now, eventually, and it is eventual because it's just going to be what it is going to be. People who protest against immigration on Canada Day, there are going to be those that call it racist, that say these guys are they don't want to have foreigners in the country. They're stoking xenophobia. How do you plan as a leader of this group to tackle those accusations? Because they're going to come.
Well, I think it's clear. First of all, what I've noticed, which has been really encouraging, and almost funny in a way, is that some of the people that seem most serious about the cause, when I'm out and I'm actually putting up posters, like in the city, the people that come up to me are immigrants. Some of them, from 20 plus years ago, some of them from just 5 years ago that, tell me they agree with the cause and they don't like what's going on right now. I think that I really hope to have a lot of those type of folks show up. And you're totally right. We can't avoid that people are going to call us names. We also can't avoid that there's going to be some genuinely distasteful people that come to this cause. But I think that, this belief that people have, or this tendency that people have to, change their opinion because certain people that hold an opinion, just the general stance that this immigration policy is not working, we need less immigration. Of course there's going to be people who hate immigrants, hate people of certain races that are going to agree with that sentiment. But is that going to mean, that you run away from what you believe personally because you're going to let those people decide that just because you agree on some general point? It's like we all drink water. We all agree for the most part that, I don't know, let's say murderers should go to jail. I'm sure there's some really horrible people that also drink water and believe that murderers should go to jail. But are you going to associate that belief solely with those people and then hold the opposite belief? So I think that we're entering into a time that's going to get messy. I think that people need to realize that this is the decade, we've already seen it, and I think COVID was just kind of a coincidence and not really the cause of this happening. I think the 2020s is always the decade that history started again. I think, that we've seen that in so many things. I think the biggest thing is the war in Ukraine was, is something that people didn't think, it was just unthinkable. And then very quickly with that, the unthinkable became reality and just the seemingly completely impossible became plausible. And I think we're only going to see more and more of that this decade and the 2030s and the 2040s. I think this world that we've lived in since the collapse of the Soviet Union, of just the world feeling like a relatively safe place. Obviously, history has happened. 9/11 happened. The wars in the Middle East happened. Not to belittle those, but in terms of their effect on the world, and especially their effect on us, we don't understand the Western psyche, the Canadian psyche. People don't get that history can still happen. Those massive events you read about in history books, they're coming again.
That's a good point. It's a good point because, of course, if this just continues, if we just continue with this mass immigration agenda, there will be a backlash, which I don't think anyone wants to see. It's not Canadian. It's not how we approach domestic issues in our country. So it is the right time. And frankly, it was a few years ago before it started, but we're now at a point where politicians have to address this issue and put an end to it to stop bad things from happening. No one wants to see a serious backlash, and unless this issue is taken seriously, like you are right now with Take Back Canada, things are going to get very very scary for Canadians. Now, before the protest has already started, you've already received pushback because your group was banned from Reddit, if I'm not mistaken. What happened there? Why did Take Back Canada get banned from Reddit? And what have you guys done since to remedy that and to get your message out?
Yeah, so that was, I won't dignify them by naming them, but there was a certain other group of people on Reddit that made it their mission basically, and we have receipts, we have the screenshots of them discussing it. People can, I think they're floating around in some other somewhat adjacent subreddits a lot of people have seen, but we got brigaded. We're all new to this. We're new to even starting a subreddit, and I was speaking to the owner of another subreddit recently. I didn't realize that you could actually make it so that when someone submits a post in your subreddit, it doesn't get posted right away, and you actually have to, a moderator has to review it beforehand. We were trying to moderate, people could just post whatever, and then we were going and trying to moderate after the fact. We didn't have, necessarily the manpower to do that effectively when people were brigading us. And yeah, there was some pretty important stuff on there. I believe certainly, it's hard to say. I definitely imagine there was some genuinely just unsavory people saying some unsavory things, but most of it was just so outlandish, and you can tell when someone's saying something to be as outrageous as possible.
Of course.
It was mostly a result of brigading, and then they post that, and then of course mass report, and it is what it is. We're trying to get our message out in other ways. Again, I'm very new to this. The people that I've been able to build a bit of a team around are also completely new to this. We're trying. We'll have missteps. We'll make mistakes. We'll have setbacks. But I know for myself that I'm completely dedicated to this. The way I see it, people in this country before me, people that came before me, they went to war and they put their lives on the line, and they died, many of them, for this country. And the least I can do is this.
Absolutely, and it sounds like this. It sounds like this Reddit banning had nothing. Obviously, it was outside groups trying to sabotage what you were trying to do. Something that is genuinely important for the future of the country. And I don't think I'm alone in saying that. Now, where can Canadians find out how to engage with this protest? Where can Canadians either start one of these protests in their city using what you've built and using your posters? How can Canadians interact with this so they can get involved themselves?
So first thing you can do is we just started our X account at Take Back Canada X. There's not a lot on there right now, but that's going to be kind of the main outlet that we put out news, and then as well as our website, takebackcanada.info. Our biggest focus right now, of course, besides the protest itself and just trying to garner put the word out there about that, is building more of a dedicated team. We've had a lot of people that have shown interest in wanting to help, but what's much harder to find is people that are truly dedicated and reliable and mature and competent to be just part of the overall sorry, I should say the core team and organizing, or to organize the local protests. We do have some, and we're looking to keep finding local leaders who can lead kind of groups in their city who are going to be, really doing the on the ground, putting up posters and things like that. Right now, people can go to takebackcanada.info and they can, in the top bar, there's a link to download posters, and they can download posters and start putting them up themselves. That's a big thing you can do to help right away. I really believe in, getting the word out in person. I believe that, online the internet was supposed to be, the way we all connect and get to reach out to each other, and definitely it's amazing for that in some ways, but people also kind of build an echo chamber for themselves in terms of people they follow and what they choose to see, and then the algorithms that will keep feeding the same things to them. So we really believe in on the ground tactics and work, and that's what I'm trying to foster here. So if you're really interested in becoming part of leadership, either at the overall, I guess you can call it exec team level, although we're not so official yet, or starting your own local group or joining a local group, then please go to our website. At the bottom there is a form you can fill out and just indicate such in the form, and we will get back to you.
And anyone watching this on YouTube or Facebook or Rumble will be able to find links to both the Twitter page, the X account for Take Back Canada, and their website in the description of this video. You kind of hinted at it a little bit before that, Ethan, but I want to ask you, obviously the protest is just one part of this, what you're trying to start. Do you have any plans for after Canada Day? What the plan is for what you want to try to accomplish after the protest?
I mean, we're not stopping. This isn't just a July 1st protest, so we don't have any other protests penciled in for any certain dates, but we certainly will be holding more protests, and I'm sure we'll learn some lessons with how these ones go, whether they're a shocking success that we can never imagine, or whether I show up to Queen's Park and I'm just sitting there with a sign. It doesn't matter. We won't be deterred. So definitely more protests, but I believe in being creative and finding other ways to save our country. And that really has to be the goal. That has to be the thought process, is what can we do to save our country? It needs to be a belief that we can. Because again, I believe that, like I said before, history is happening again, and whether people realize it or not. And that is a very scary thing, but it can also be a very hopeful thing for people for the majority of Canadians, I believe, that kind of felt stuck in our political system, that are, just as time has gone on, our governments become less and less responsive to, the actual will of the people, as has been common in most of the Western world. The fact that things are happening again that are significant is, represents an opportunity then that we can actually affect change right now. I'm getting a little sidetracked.
No worries. Ethan, the last question I have for you.
Oh, sorry. Let me.
Yep.
There was more I had to answer. What was the original question again? Let me just.
What your plan is, what you want to do after Canada Day?
Yeah. So one of the other things that I think is really important is just educating people. So doing door-to-door work, handing out pamphlets. Really, I want to build a team of people that really understand the issues, understand also just in general economics at a very advanced level, and demographics and such, and really for our own sake, understand the full extent of what's going on, and kind of projecting forward precisely what can be expected to happen given various scenarios and how they will play out, and from that educate people in the public. And again, I think that online is a terrible way to do that. Well, it's not. It's a very important thing that you should do as well, but I think that it has serious limitations in terms of, we've just been so conditioned to, not trust what we see online if it doesn't conform to our current worldview already, and if it does, then to trust it absolutely. And I think there's just an air of dishonesty when you see something online. You just don't trust it very much. So I think that, on the ground, talking to people, door knocking, even just leaving pamphlets at people's doors and things is very important.
Absolutely. And the last question I have for you, Ethan, it's sort of right back near to the beginning of our conversation, which was, what was the moment that you decided you wanted to actually do something and you wanted to take on the responsibility of starting an organization to actually tackle this issue? Because I think a lot of young Canadians, as you pointed out, are feeling hopeless. They are lacking some direction. They want to do something, but they don't know where to start. So for you, what was the moment that you decided, I'm going to do something and I'm going to try to fix this country?
It was really, I honestly almost couldn't tell you. Like, I was for so long just focused on my job and my life, and trying to get by and trying to plan for the future, and just my life. And I just I work right next to a diploma mill, so I see some pretty shocking things.
Right.
So it's been increasingly kind of in my face. And one night I just got curious, started looking up, just what was going on, and I was honestly shocked at how quickly our population's gone up. I still can't believe we're at over 40 million people. I think over 41 now. And I just realized, like, oh, this isn't getting any better. This isn't just a housing bubble that we're in that's going to pop. The price of housing isn't right now primarily fueled by people speculating on it as an asset, although that is of course happening, but it's basic supply and demand, and the rate we're going, it's never going to get better. And just this general feeling of understanding that these are not the times ahead are not the peaceful, happy times that I've grown up in since the day I was born, and just kind of looking within myself, am I going to do anything about that, or am I not going to do anything about that? I think we all like to look back at moments in history and think, what would I have done? I would have been like these people, or joined that, or whatever. And I truly believe I find myself living in a moment like that might not, fully feel that way to people, but I think people are very quickly starting to realize that all is far from well. So that was kind of the moment. That was not that long ago. That was I would say mid-May. So yeah.
You're a fast worker. Well, Ethan Duggan, thank you for speaking to us. And I think a lot of Canadians will want to see what happens. They'll want to get involved. And I will certainly be at Queen's Park on Canada Day covering the protest. So, Ethan Duggan, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.